Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we talk about the latest news, information and analysis on what is really going on in Russia and the BRICS. Now, my name is Rod Mackenzie, and today I want to talk about the recent attacks on Russian air bases by the Ukrainians and how they've opened a Pandora's box and given ideas and a how-to instructions to the deranged lunatics out there who've got a grudge against society in various ways, and they now can see how they can cause huge amounts of damage and loss of life for very limited cost. Now, the initial wave of excitement and applause by the Western world regarding the sabotage by the Ukrainians on Russian military airfields and the destruction and damage to very expensive aircraft has now been replaced by much more subdued tones. It appears the penny has dropped and they know it could come back and bite them on the arse. I mean, while most of the prominent commentators and the wankerati lauded Operation Spider's Web unreservedly, the more astute ones began to ponder about its serious implications for the West itself. I mean, after a brief period of consideration, a well-known refrain was heard. What's going to happen to us now? Now, the New York Times has acknowledged that the Ukrainian sabotage they carried out has exposed the vulnerability of the West and America. Now, the events that took place in Russia have the potential to occur anywhere in the world, United States or anywhere in the West. There could be swarms of small, inexpensive drones, undetectable to air defences, that could destroy billions of dollars worth of infrastructure or military equipment in an instant. Michael Shurkin, who's a military analyst and former CIA officer, stated that the Ukrainian operation had caused serious concerns among military forces all around the world. Potential drone targets could include oil refineries, nuclear missile silos and military bases. Now, before I continue, I would like to make an appeal. If you like and enjoy my videos, you can help me fund the channel and my website, SCOBRICSInsight.com, and you can do this by making a small donation, which is done by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom of the screen. Every donation does get a personal thank you from me, and I'm thanking you all now. And also set the alerts so that you get notified when I post a new video. And also, please keep the comments coming, as I love to read them and I love to respond to them. Now, it soon became apparent to all observers that Zelensky's contribution to his Western master's proxy war has been extremely reckless. He and his associates have opened the Overton window, so to speak, and now the world can see thousands of unmanned aerial vehicles that can fly in all directions out from this window. Western powers, including nuclear ones, are unaware of how they can protect themselves now. Now, it's important to note that the Patriots and other major air defence systems are not enough to protect all potential targets. Now, the authors of the optimistic and congratulatory headlines about Kiev changing the face of modern warfare are correct, but not in the way they anticipated. However, they are actually missing the point about what's really occurred now. They don't seem to understand that their own countries are not protected from this new asymmetrical, low-profile and very cost-effective threat. In fact, they're not protected at all. In today's global business environment, the emergence of swarms of drones with multiple relabels can occur with surprising rapidity in any location. I mean, all military assets are potentially vulnerable to attack, from aircraft carriers to military bases, strategic bombers and airfields. And that also applies to not just to military, but to civilian airfields. Now, the cost of these UAVs are minimal. The targets that are designed to attack are worth billions, and it's not feasible to cover all the targets. Even the so-called Gold Dome, which Trump's talking about, has not actually been initiated yet. I mean, it's relatively simple to identify the culprits responsible after it's happened. But I mean, the current economic climate in the West is challenging, and there's a sense of unease amongst a lot of the populations in various countries. I mean, there's significant numbers of people in the West who bear grudges, hold grievances against society in one way or another. And all around the world, in different countries, there are groups with a desire for retribution against others. There's groups like the deranged green environmentalists, militant transgenders, animal rights vegans, and, many other lunatic fringe groups. I mean, it's not inconceivable, for example, that some of these British crazed eco-warriors could fire drones at a British nuclear power plant, or animal rights nutters could fire drones at an abattoir or a meat processing plant, or just stop oil, fly an explosive drone into an oil refinery. You couldn't put any of that past them. In Western countries, the protection of infrastructure is awfully clearly visible to the naked eye, and it's easy to get around. I mean, for example, in anarchists have known to cut the electricity to the whole of the south of France in order to protest against something they were upset about. I mean, despite their limited intelligence, these individuals have identified all the necessary vulnerabilities, resulting in a complete compromise of the security systems overnight. I mean, the low cost and stealth of modern UAVs means that American aircraft carriers are in the same position of the dreadnoughts before the First World War. I mean, many countries built these super ships, but they all ended up showing that they were pretty useless in the end. Plus, the actions of these Kiev Nazis have significantly escalated the conflict into potentially could lead to a nuclear war between Russia and the US. I mean, a paradox narrative has emerged. Foreign Policy, the magazine, laments, the more effective the Ukrainian sabotage, the greater the fear of the escalation that Russia will respond with. For many observers in the West, the severity of Russia's response is more concerning than the impact of the sabotage themselves. I mean, Donald Trump was well aware of the potential risk, and as a result, he emphasized that the US had no prior knowledge of the planned sabotage against Russian nuclear deterrent forces. He also stated that the US did not support the bill on new sanctions against Russia put forward by the Europeans, and he also spoke on the phone with the Russian President Vladimir Putin for more than an hour, and he accepted Putin's decision to make retaliatory strikes against the Ukraine without any further comment. So it's evident that the US President is visibly anxious. First, he published a post on Truth social media, which he recounted his conversation with Putin. Then he removed it, and then he subsequently re-uploaded it again. I don't know what that was about. I mean, the current situation is very tense. I mean, Trump can thank Zelensky for all of this problems, although behind the scenes, he's already referred to him as a scoundrel and accusing him of being a danger to the world and moving it closer to a nuclear war. Well, what actually were the results of Operation Spider's Web? I mean, the project which attracted a great deal of attention, but from a military perspective, the deployment of drones was not a viable option for gaining anything. I mean, not for winning the war, it was just another propaganda stunt. I mean, everybody knows the Russian army is maintaining the current pace of its operations and is liberating more territory every single day. However, the Kiev regime has now exposed the significant vulnerabilities of all nations around the world with these attacks, and it's obvious that they're unable to fight against them, and it's always going to be a problem. So the actions of the Nazi comedian could actually have resulted in the US and Russia getting into a full-scale war, with the comedian himself acting as the catalyst as a nuclear terrorist. I mean, the countries that have been providing support to Kiev are now perceived by the global community to be the sponsors of terrorism. Russia has been granted unmitigated authorization to engage in military action against these radical terrorists, and the global community will be appreciative of its efforts to protect the planet from these people who are such a menace. Zelensky may have believed he was playing a strong hand and he was winning a propaganda victory, but in reality he was playing a dishonest trick on his sponsors and has given ideas to very crazy lunatic groups with a grudge. This opening of a Pandora's box has been a gift for all the crazed and deranged terrorist groups who are now aware of how to cause billions in damage for a few thousands in costs. Now, thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and also hand it to others who might enjoy my videos. And if you want to make a donation, please click on the thanks button at the bottom of the screen. Thank you.